falls apart only when you stop holding yourself together. There comes a moment in every person's life when chaos feels unbearable, when the noise around you becomes so loud that you can no longer hear your own thoughts. When you begin to seek control outside of yourself, from people, from outcomes, from validation, only to realize that the more you chase it, the more it slips away. But here lies a timeless truth. When you focus on yourself, everything else begins to align. Welcome to Stoic Valor, where every word is a reminder that true strength is born within, not from the world that changes, but from the spirit that endures. The Stoics, those ancient architects of inner peace, understood this long before the world became as restless as it is today. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That single sentence contains the essence of Stoicism and the essence of this message. To focus on yourself is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of alignment. It's about taking your energy, which the world constantly tries to scatter, and bringing it back to its source. Your mind, your actions, your will. The Stoics taught that the only things truly within our control are our perceptions, our choices, and our reactions. Everything else, wealth, reputation, even health, is secondary. Epictetus said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond our power." Think about how much of your life is consumed by what lies beyond that power. The opinions of others, the future you cannot predict, the past you cannot undo, the way people treat you, the way circumstances unfold. And yet, the modern world has trained you to chase control in those very areas. But the Stoic path reverses that instinct. It teaches that the more you focus inward, on your character, on your discipline, on your choices, the more the external world begins to fall into its rightful place, because you no longer depend on it to find peace. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. We waste it comparing. We waste it resenting. We waste it wishing that others would change instead of mastering ourselves." Imagine this. You wake up each morning, and instead of reaching for your phone, you reach for your mind. You check your thoughts before your messages. You ask yourself, am I focused on what I can control today? That single question asked daily would begin to reshape your entire reality. When you shift your focus from them to you, from the world to yourself, life stops feeling like a storm you must survive and begins to feel like a sea you know how to sail. Ryan Holiday, a modern interpreter of Stoicism, wrote, "The obstacle is the way." This means that whatever stands before you is not an interruption, it is your teacher. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean avoiding difficulty. It means using difficulty as a forge. Because the Stoic knows life will test you, not to break you, but to reveal you. But here's where most people fail. They mistake focusing on yourself for isolation, for shutting others out, for building walls. The Stoic focus is not about separation, it's about purification. You cleanse your attention from distractions so that your actions, when they meet the world, are deliberate and powerful. Every day, the world asks for your attention. Every advertisement, every opinion, every platform screams, "Look here, think this, feel that." But the Stoic whispers, "Return to yourself." Marcus Aurelius journaled daily, not for an audience, not for applause, but to face his own mind. His meditations were not meant to be published. They were reminders to himself to stay grounded in what he could control. You see, the act of focusing on yourself is not glamorous. It's quiet, it's humble. It's the unseen work of mastering your reactions while the world demands outrage. It's the calm breath before you speak, the pause before you judge, the discipline to listen more than you respond. In the words of James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become. Focusing on yourself means casting your votes wisely, choosing progress over perfection, substance over validation, growth over comfort. And when you do that long enough, something begins to happen. People start noticing your calm, not because you boast about it, but because it radiates. Opportunities begin aligning, not because you forced them, but because you became ready for them. The world starts falling into place, not because it changed, but because your perception did. This is the paradox of Stoic focus. When you stop chasing the external, it begins to move in your favor. Because you've stopped being reactive to it, you've anchored yourself. Seneca once said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." In a world addicted to multitasking and constant stimulation, you must learn the ancient art of singular focus. One thought at a time, one action at a time, one moment fully lived. When you focus deeply on yourself, on your virtue, your discipline, your clarity, you stop leaking energy into what doesn't matter. You begin to act, not react, to respond, not explode, to observe, not absorb. The Stoics called this ataraxia, the state of unshakable tranquility. It doesn't come from isolation, but from mastery. Mastery of the only thing that ever truly belonged to you, your mind. Robin Sharma once wrote, "Your outer world reflects your inner world." That's not a motivational slogan. It's a Stoic principle wrapped in modern words. The state of your thoughts, your emotions, and your focus will always project outward. If your mind is cluttered, your life will mirror that chaos. If your mind is disciplined, your world will begin to mirror that order. So before you seek to change the world, sit quietly with yourself. Ask, am I aligned? Am I disciplined? Am I at peace with what I cannot control? Because from that alignment, life begins to rearrange itself around your strength. Marcus Aurelius said it best. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Stop debating what kind of life you should live and start living it. To focus on yourself is to stop seeking power and instead start cultivating it. It is to realize that your reaction to every event, every insult, every challenge is the real battlefield. And when you win that inner battle, everything external begins to shift, not because the world changed, but because you did. This is not the path of ease, it's the path of endurance. But as Epictetus reminded his students, the greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. So let the storms come, let the noise rise, because you, calm, focused, unshaken, will remain the eye of it. The man who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers 1,000 enemies. You've understood the essence. Focus on yourself, and the world will align. But knowing this truth and living it are two entirely different things. Philosophy is not power until it becomes practice. The Stoics were not theorists hiding in libraries. They were warriors of the mind. They lived what they taught. So how can you, in a world built to scatter your attention, reclaim that Stoic focus? How can you train your mind to be the calm center amid constant noise? The first step is awareness. The Stoics called it prosoche, vigilant attention. It's the discipline of constantly observing your own mind. Epictetus taught his students to examine their impressions, every thought, every reaction, every emotional impulse, and ask, is this within my control? That question alone can change your life. Imagine waking up in the morning, your phone lighting up with notifications, emails, and opinions. Before reacting, you pause. You ask, is this within my control? The answer almost always is no. What is within your control is how you begin your day. So begin it like a Stoic. Wake before the world does. Sit in silence for a few moments. Breathe deeply. Remind yourself of this truth. You're not owed an easy day, but you are capable of facing whatever this day brings. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reminding himself that he would encounter meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and unsocial people. And yet he would remain kind, because their nature cannot harm his. That's focus. That's inner mastery. Focusing on yourself begins with how you greet the day. Don't let the world dictate your mental state before you've chosen it yourself. Then, throughout the day, your focus becomes a discipline of choice. Every moment presents a fork in the road. React or reflect. Judge or understand. Resist or adapt. The Stoic chooses reflection. The Stoic chooses mastery. Let's look at this through a simple example. Imagine you're driving and someone cuts you off aggressively. Your first impulse is anger. You want to honk, shout, prove a point. But what would Marcus Aurelius have done? He would have observed the impulse, recognized it as irrational, and let it pass. Why? Because that driver's behavior lies outside your control, but your reaction does not. Every situation in life offers this same test. When your co-worker disrespects you, when your plans fail, when people misunderstand you, you have two options: to react and give them control over your inner state, or to focus inward and maintain your equilibrium. Seneca once wrote, "He who is angry at the things which he cannot control is foolish." The Stoic response is not passivity, it's power under control. Start practicing response over reaction. When you feel emotional energy rising, take one deep breath before acting. That pause, that single breath, separates the wise from the impulsive. Next, practice negative visualization. It might sound dark, but it's one of the most powerful Stoic techniques. Each morning, imagine losing something you love: your home, your comfort, even your life. Not to create fear, but to create gratitude and resilience. When you mentally face loss, you rob it of its power to destroy you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." So when you imagine loss, you learn to value presence. When you meditate on mortality, you begin to live with urgency. That is focus, not on fear, but on what truly matters. Now let's talk about detachment. Modern life confuses detachment with indifference. But Stoic detachment is not about caring less, it's about caring correctly. It means loving deeply but without dependency, working passionately but without expectation, acting fully but without needing control over outcomes. Epictetus compared life to a game at the festival. You can enjoy the spectacle, play your part and clap your hands, but when the master calls you to leave, go without resistance. That's focus on yourself, doing your duty with excellence and grace, no matter what follows. If this message is resonating with you, if these words feel like the reminder your soul needed today, then don't forget to subscribe to Stoic Valor, because here we don't just talk philosophy, we live it. We train the mind to be unshakable, the heart to be calm, and the spirit to rise above. Join this journey of transformation, because wisdom is not learned once, it is practiced daily. To truly focus on yourself, you must begin to track your inner world like an athlete tracks progress. One of the most powerful Stoic habits is journaling. Not journaling to vent, but to reflect. Each night, write down 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I lose control of myself? How can I improve tomorrow? Marcus Aurelius did this. His meditations are proof, private notes meant for no one but himself. And yet, 2,000 years later, they still guide millions. That's the power of honest reflection. Another practice, voluntary discomfort. Seneca taught that from time to time we should live simply, wear rough clothing, eat little, and ask ourselves, is this what I feared? When you voluntarily face discomfort, comfort loses its hold on you. When you practice simplicity, luxury becomes irrelevant. This is not about punishment. It's about preparation. If you can find peace in simplicity, no loss can disturb you. If you can find joy in discipline, no chaos can control you. So choose small challenges every day. Take a cold shower, walk instead of driving, silence your phone for an hour. Practice restraint, because each act of restraint is a declaration of freedom. Let's ground this even deeper with a real-world scenario. Imagine you're pursuing a personal goal. Perhaps you're building a business, a career, or a dream. The world tells you to obsess over results, the likes, the followers, the recognition. But the Stoic doesn't focus there. The Stoic focuses on effort, on process, on character. Epictetus said, don't wish that things happen as you want them to. Wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well. When you focus on yourself, you focus on the one constant, your effort, your integrity, your growth. Maybe you faced failure recently. Something didn't work out the way you hoped. A relationship ended. A project collapsed. The Stoic approach is not to dwell in blame or regret, but to ask, what lesson lies here for me? Because every setback becomes sacred when used as a lesson. Ryan Holiday reminds us, in the obstacle is the way, that what blocks the path is the path. When you learn to focus inward, you start seeing problems as invitations to strengthen your character. Another key Stoic principle is dichotomy of control. Write it down somewhere visible. There are two categories of things in life. What you can control, your thoughts, actions, and choices. What you cannot control, everything else. Your peace depends on how fast you can distinguish between the two. Each time you feel anxiety rising, stop and ask, am I trying to control something that isn't mine? That question can save you years of frustration. Focus on what's yours, your energy, your growth, your discipline, and release the rest. That's how everything begins to fall into place. The Stoic life is not about apathy. It's about clarity. You can still love, still dream, still strive, but without being enslaved to the outcome. Remember what Seneca said, he who is brave is free. Freedom begins when you stop being ruled by emotion, by comparison, by the noise of others. And when you practice this daily, through awareness, journaling, voluntary discomfort, and disciplined focus, something miraculous happens. The storms of life stop defining your mood. You become grounded, unshaken, clear, because now you know life is not happening to you. It's happening for you. Every challenge is an opportunity to practice your philosophy. So, the next time the world feels chaotic, remind yourself, your only duty is to focus inward. Everything else is background noise. As the Stoics believed, the man who governs himself governs the world. When you stop chasing the world begins to come to you. At some point, you realize that most of life is not a battle with others. It's a conversation with yourself. Every disappointment, every conflict, every frustration is really your mind asking, will you stay grounded or will you let this pull you away from yourself? The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They knew that the external world is unpredictable. People will betray. Fortune will shift. Time will erase what you build. But the inner world, that sacred space within your mind, is yours to shape, guard, and strengthen. To focus on yourself truly is to build a fortress that no storm can touch. It doesn't mean you isolate yourself from the world. It means you move through it with composure. You engage, but you don't absorb. You love, but you don't cling. You act, but you don't expect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." That is your goal, to become the rock. To reach that point, you must learn to detach your peace from outcomes. This is one of the hardest lessons to master. The modern world teaches you that happiness lies in achievement, in status, in validation, in being seen. But the Stoics knew that such happiness is fragile. It depends on things outside your control. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." For he is not permitted to prove himself. When things fall apart, when people disappoint you, when plans collapse, that's not the universe punishing you. That's life asking, how strong is your focus? The one who focuses on himself doesn't fall apart when things go wrong. He adapts. He studies the lesson, absorbs the pain, and moves forward with even greater clarity. Because he knows that pain is not an enemy, it's information. It's the world revealing what still holds power over him. Ask yourself, what still steals your peace? What words, what failures, what opinions still control you? Those are the areas where your focus still leaks outward. To live like a Stoic is to reclaim that energy, to pull it all back into yourself where it belongs. You begin to realize that your focus is your most sacred currency. Every minute you spend worrying about what you can't change is a minute stolen from what you can. Think about it. You have no control over how others see you, but total control over how you show up. You have no control over when success arrives, but total control over how prepared you are when it does. You have no control over how long you live, but total control over how deeply you live each day. This is where freedom lives, not in external power, but in internal mastery. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, achieved more freedom in his mind than most emperors did in their palaces. He wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's the truth most people avoid. Because self-mastery is difficult. It demands discipline, patience, and humility. But it's also the only path to peace that can't be taken from you. In a world obsessed with controlling others, the Stoic seeks to control himself. When the world moves fast, he slows down. When the world reacts, he reflects. When the world shouts, he listens. Focusing on yourself means making your inner state your highest priority, not your image, not your achievements, not your validation. It's walking into every situation asking, what does this require of my character? Instead of, what do I get from this? When you start thinking this way, life begins to feel different. You stop measuring yourself by outcomes and start measuring yourself by composure. You stop chasing recognition and start pursuing virtue. Seneca called virtue the highest good. Not pleasure, not fame, not wealth. Virtue, the consistent alignment of thought and action with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. Focus on yourself, and those four virtues become your compass. When faced with injustice, choose fairness. When faced with fear, choose courage. When faced with indulgence, choose temperance. When faced with ignorance, choose wisdom. These are the choices that build peace, and yet there's something deeper. Focusing on yourself is not just a practice, it's an act of service. Because when you master yourself, you become a force of stability for others. You stop adding chaos to the world. You lead not by words, but by presence. The calm person in the room changes the room. The grounded soul changes the environment without speaking. That's the paradox. When you stop trying to change others and simply embody strength, they begin to follow your example. Your focus becomes your influence. Remember the phrase, as within, so without. The peace you cultivate within yourself ripples outward. The discipline you maintain inspires others. The patience you practice softens the world around you. This is why everything begins to fall into place when you focus on yourself, because the external world is only ever a reflection of your internal one. Think of a mirror. When you smile, the reflection smiles back. When you frown, the reflection frowns. Life works the same way. You cannot demand peace from the world while your mind is in turmoil. You cannot demand respect while disrespecting yourself through your habits, your distractions, your lack of discipline. You cannot demand clarity while your focus is scattered. So clean the mirror, refine your thoughts, guard your energy, live with integrity even when no one is watching. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Pedidis dies sut tisititatur." It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. To focus on yourself is to finally begin to live, not reactively, but intentionally. Stop waiting for life to calm down. Calm yourself. Stop waiting for people to change. Change yourself. Stop waiting for peace to find you. Become it. Because when you do, everything else, opportunities, relationships, purpose, begins to align naturally. Not because you forced it, but because you became the kind of person who attracts it. As James Clear said, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your systems are your habits, your mindset, your discipline, your focus. When you build those, you no longer chase alignment. You live in it. This is the Stoic secret. The more you withdraw your power from the uncontrollable, the more powerful you become. The man who focuses on himself builds quietly, prepares patiently, and acts deliberately. And when his time comes, he moves with such calm conviction that the world cannot help but respond. So today, begin again. Return to yourself. Every distraction is an invitation to come home to your mind. Every frustration is a test of your composure. Every challenge is a mirror, showing you where your focus still escapes. Focus on yourself, your growth, your discipline, your peace, and watch as everything around you begins to align, because when your inner world becomes still, the outer world has no choice but to follow. You are the constant, the unshaken, the observer, the doer, the calm in the chaos. Now live like it. If this message brought you clarity, if it helped you see the world through a calmer lens, then help us spread this philosophy. Subscribe to Stoic Valor, share this video, and let's keep walking together toward a life of inner mastery and outer peace. Because in the end, the greatest victory is not over the world. It's over yourself.